We are live. We are in the building, folks. Happy Sunday to everyone. Hopefully, everyone has had a great weekend outside of what everybody's been talking about from yesterday. Tragedy. I tell you, wow. Whew, it's like you can't hold your breath long enough until something else pops up. And that which happened yesterday spun my head around. It brought me back into time. Really did. But just thank God. Thank God that, things didn't turn out in favor of the evildoer. Let me just put it that way. But yes, happy Sunday to everyone. Now, today is July 14th, 2024, and we are starting part 4 in our series of work regarding the Sebastian Rogers case. 15-year-old boy who went missing out of Hendersonville, Tennessee, February 26th, from his home, underneath the nose of his parents. Well, one biological parent, one step parent, from what we know. So much love to everyone stepping out of your time zone on a Sunday to join us here, taking a look at some things, coming across some questions, looking for some answers. And I thank all of you for joining me tonight. Thank you so much. Let's see who we got in the building. We got Tria Maria, says she can't wait. Tria Maria is in the building. Ginger Girl is in the building. K-Mac is in the building. Miss Justice in blue is in the building. Humongous, my brother, is in the building. Jenny from the block, or I keep saying Jenny from the block. It's Jenny from the block. She's probably over there correcting me now. It's Jenny, not Jeannie. It's Jenny. Welcome. We got, let's see. Ooh, we got Geo Yuka 2020 is in the building. Curly Lock Diva is in the building. War Eagle is in the building. Tamika Ward is in the building. Little Red is in the building. Lexi Lynn is in the building. Hello. Breezy is crushing on the Sandman. Ooh, is in the building. Crucial K is in the building. Much love to you, my brother. Crucial K. S. Francisco is in the building. Chopper's in the building. Ann is in the building. Lucy is in the building. Ann is in the building. Cindy K is in the building. Marley 13 is in the building. Looking Beyond is in the building. Dreamer G is in the building. Red Miller Rickson is in the building. Uh-oh. M. Speece is in the building. Mary Rogers is in the building. Ebony, Miss Ebony is in the building. Nicole Rendon is in the building. Preppy Bestie is in the building. Marsha Baucom is in the building. Nikki Lynn is in the building. Tree Baby Tennessee is in the building. Blue Devil G is in the building. What are y'all making me rhyme now? Got to make me rhyme with all these different names. Oh, man. Don't get me started. Funny Face Brenda is in the building. Ben George, my brother, is in the building. Yeah, definitely. Definitely been. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. Steve Robertson is in the building. Squeak is in the building. My goodness. Mrs. Tina is in the building. Opal Sisk is in the building. Hope Floats is in the building. Grammy's Place is in the building. Ella Blue is in the building. Larissa Golden is in the building. CB is in the building. Jesus Loves Brenda from Ohio is in the building. Wow. Y'all are amazing. Amazing. Deborah Thompson is in the building. GB Folk is in the building. Holly Randolph is in the building. Tashia Hill is in the building. From Ohio here too. Okay. All right. Just Mary's in the building. Skinny's in the building. Purple Goddess is in the building with a smile on her face. Maui Girl is in the building. Ruru is in the building. Samantha Joy Crawford, look out, is in the building. Sweet Melissa's in the building. Christy Barber's in the building. Jersey Devil's in the building. Kelly Bird is in the building. Donna Davis is in the building. Don't Die 509 is in the building. Louisiana, we got Louisiana. Reggie from Florida is in the building. Holly Randolph is from Missouri in the house. Monica Gardner, a salute to everyone. Charlie is in the building. Cinderella is in the building. Bite Me Ray just showed up, is in the building. Miss Marty is in the building. KC from Louisiana is in the building. Much love to all of you following this story. My goodness. I was asked to take a look at some things. That's how I got involved. John, man, why aren't you covering this story? I said, what story is that? You know, the 15-year-old that went missing out of his home. You know, he has autism and it's a mess. Here, take a look at a couple of things I want you to look at. And then Miss Carol Smith chimed in and she sent me some things. And then Mama Bear sent me some things because I had joined, I think it was on a panel when I was just learning about this case. Oh, okay, I'll take a look at it. The best way I can begin my research is to find out what's out there about the case. Find out what's out there and then go from there. And that's what I began doing. And little by little, I said, oh, no, this looks too familiar. I said, this looks like something that happened to Summer Wells. From out of the house. I said, another one has gone missing from inside the house. The West Boys, also Classic and Sincere, from out of the house. Amari Nicholson, from out of the house. Meddy came and picked him up, so the story goes. That's what we were told. And it was a story indeed, because this was far beyond that story where a boyfriend, I think he lost it. There's some people who do not know how to deal with children. There are some people out there who do not know how to deal with children. Period. And they should not have them. if they are not prepared to deal with a lifetime commitment. And what happened to little Amari Nicholson? Tragedy. Tragedy. Madeline Soto. Something happened in the house to her. And then was taken out of the house with another story. It's sad. And then you find out about the parents. The parents are the one that's the culprits in all of this. Summer Wells, Classic and Sincere, Amari Nicholson, Madeline Soto. Hence, we come now to our story here tonight, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, who went missing from inside the house February 26th. I said, and that's what pulled me into the story. Another one missing from inside the house. I learned a lot from a lot of different content creators and have been on panel with a number of different content creators. We've had a power panel on my channel here where we discussed in very great detail, collectively, as a team unit, working this case, various different details in this case. Various different details in this case. I thank those content creators for working in harmony to get those details out in a live that I enjoyed tremendously. Absolutely tremendously. Our first panel, we had Mark and Cher from Voices Behind the Wall. We had Justin from Clutch Them Pearls. We had Miss 54 Keys of 54 Keys from her channel. We had Mr. Bossman Blake from Community Crime Network on our channel, just chopping it up, getting the details of this case. You remember, on Friday night, let me just share with you here. On Friday night, there was another panel discussion. And this panel discussion was on Voices Behind the Wall, where we picked up from my channel where we left off and crushed down those details again. Miss Mandy from Spirit Seeker Squad was a part of that panel. Allegedly with Miss Brittany was a part of that panel. Justin was a part of that panel. Miss Tammy was a part of that panel. 54 Keys was a part of that panel. Community Crime Network with Mr. Bossman Blake, myself, and Mr. and Mrs. Cher. All of these content creators getting together, and we stayed 4 hours crushing down details, going over the facts. Going over the facts. And so after that panel, I said, man, it gave me some questions, and Miss Mandy nailed down something of a video clip that she shared, which was a minute and I think 40 seconds or a minute and 30 seconds long, where I am definitely convinced that Chris was in the house I'm saying that on my channel. As I said it on Mr. and Mrs. Cher's channel, Voices Behind the Wall. That puts Chris in the house. That's what I said. And if he don't like it and he hears my live, guess what, dude? You got some explaining to do. You got to scratch that story you told. Because it doesn't work. Not when people are looking at it hard enough to get the details. See, you didn't figure that out. Don and Candace Wells didn't figure it out either. Terrell Rhodes didn't figure it out. Jacqueline and Trezell West didn't figure it out. Jennifer Soto and Stephen Stearns didn't figure it out. They forgot all about us on YouTube. What we do here as content creators following true crime, missing persons. They won't figure it out. We'll just tell them one of those Don and Candace stories. How's that? Let them try to figure it out. Details figure out everything. And as long as you get the details, yeah, 1 + 1 is 2 all day. The math has never changed, but in most other people's minds, they can't do math properly anyway. They'll never be able to do math properly because they're that messed up in their mind. Because they have to understand that that which is created by mind. This stuff just doesn't happen all by itself in the physical realm. It is created by mind, the person's mind behind the crime, if you will. That's who's creating all this stuff with all of these children. And it's gotten to a point to where we're seeing this on a regular, folks. A regular like we've never seen it before. And I don't care where you live, it's happening all over the country. Never in my life have I seen so many children go missing, end up unalived for some stupid reason. Families are broken. People are lying. So it's like the norm. This is what we're supposed to be doing in 2024, the 21st century. We didn't hear none of this in the 1900s, in the latter part of the 1900s, not as much. We didn't have the internet then. We got it now. And information gets around faster than you can blink. And people can decide and choose to do this nonsense and think that people aren't looking. Well, when you look, guess what you'll see? What we've seen. So I want to welcome everyone joining me here on tonight's live. This is part 4 of a live series I'm doing. And I had some questions. I'm going to throw out into the chat. And then we're going to be doing something special. I'm going to have a speak your piece kind of deal where I drop the link and you can come up and chime in. I want to know your thoughts about the case since you've been following it so carefully, so closely. Because it's important. It is very important. I'm looking to get... Okay. So yeah, I thank all of y'all for taking your time out tonight. This case, like any other case, deserves attention. I'm glad you're giving it your attention. I'm glad you're following content creators that are digging for the truth. It's hard work to do that. Anybody who's ever worked a case knows what I'm talking about. This is not easy work, folks, because we're taking time out of our lives to study something that we've never studied before. We're not just watching this stuff. Well, some of us are, but then again, the content creators I'm talking about are not just watching this stuff. We're studying this stuff because there's a pattern here, as you can see, for the last, 10, 15 years that is starting to develop into a normalcy, like it's a regular, everyday occurrence, like stopping at a stop sign or a stoplight. And no big deal. It'll change in a moment type shit. Another child, another loved one. It's all it takes. And lives change because of it. Life changes because of it. And these people haven't figured it out. The value of life outweighs everything because you only get one and you got to do the very best you can with it, period. You only get one. Now, we don't get a chance to pick and select who our parents are, but you got to do the very best you can with it. We're seeing by example how other people are doing the very best they can with it. And it's not satisfactory at all. This is one of those cases, like the others, are totally unsatisfactory. Only because there is a special needs child that's involved in this particular case, a child with autism. How could this have happened to a 15-year-old with autism? Now, teenagers are difficult at around that age to even begin to figure out what they're around, what's happening in life. They're still in a major dependency state or situation with the parents. And it's tough as a teenager. You have to go back into your years to remember it. How was it for me when I was growing up? How was mom and dad if they were the household? They were there. Or how was mom? Or vice versa. Or there wasn't mom and dad and it was an aunt or grandma or some other relative of the family. 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, 18 is when you're considered a young adult. 21, you're a full-fledged adult. Getting ready to begin your life, figuring out what you want to do, where you want to do it, who you want to do it with, how long you want to do it. And so for Sebastian, his life was different. His world was different. And him to adapt into a world, the world around him, the world without, if you will, was an everyday task. An everyday task. He saw the world differently than we all do. us non-autistic people. And those non-autistic people had to see the world from a different point of view, dealing with someone who's autistic. And I'm sure it was that way with the parents. Chris and Katie Proudfoot, the biological mother of Sebastian Rogers, and the stepdad. Also, it had to be different for the biological father, Seth Rogers. And they had to deal with Sebastian the best way they could. The best way they could. Two household parents, if you will. And Sebastian is in the middle of the three of these people. Every other week on a constant basis. He's got issues. The parents got issues. Life has issues, just like everyone's life has issues. But they had to deal with Sebastian. And guess what? Sebastian had to deal with them. He had to deal with them. And it's not easy. Being told one thing to correct a matter all the time. No, not this way, this way. No, you're not doing that right. It's supposed to be done this way. From a teaching standpoint, teaching your young. In their mind, doing it their way is more prevalent. It's more a part of them, so that's what they tried to do. I believe both those worlds clashed. And obviously, one had to obviously be the world much more stronger in his life so that he could get it right, which would make the difference in his. There were challenges on both sides. And those challenges over time, since he was born, have grown to a point to where now Sebastian is missing. Is missing is the key there. I said, okay. Let's begin to take a look at the details. Let's begin to take a look at just a few other details I hope to bring here tonight, to bring to light tonight that I was thinking about that need to be on the table as well. So to begin with, let's go to a news clip, an update as to where things are. Recent news clip concerning Seth Rogers and what he's doing to find his son.
Father refuses to give up on his missing son. 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers disappeared nearly 5 months ago, and his father, Seth, is still searching. Good evening and welcome to News 2 at 6. I'm Bob Mueller.
And I'm Haley Wilkes. Sebastian's father told News 2's Caitlin Quisenberry they're operating this like a recovery effort, even though he believes Sebastian is still alive.
Memorial Park was one of the first places Seth Rogers tells me he searched for his son, Sebastian. He says this place is Sebastian's favorite. Almost 2 months ago, this bridge was lit up in Sebastian's favorite color, green, in hopes of his safe return home. At that time, he had been missing for 2 months. Today, the search continues, almost 5 months later.
People think that we're not searching anymore. Well, they can think whatever they want. Our searches are private.
Seth tells me after a herniated disc surgery, it is back to boots on the ground. He says today, over 40 searchers, vetted by his private investigator, will be eliminating locations Sebastian could be in Middle Tennessee.
Now I don't really have much stopping me from getting out there and doing what I need to do.
There's a refocus. We're trying to zero in on more specific information that we are gathering.
Seth tells me his search parties have become invite only due to chaos at previous searches.
They're private because we learned last time. You know, we had people following my searchers around that were just handing out flyers, and it doesn't bode well for people who are trying to help to be put into hostile situations.
But he says the goal today is not to find Sebastian.
The search that we're doing today is a recovery effort, and I'm praying that we don't find him.
Seth says he believes his son is alive, but he added some people still don't know Sebastian is missing.
We have to continue to hand out flyers until everybody knows.
Seth and Tony tell me they have one unanswered question for the Sumner County Sheriff's Office.
We think it's a valid question. We think it's a fair question. And that question is, are you any closer today to finding Sebastian Rogers than you were February 26th?
And for Seth, the answer to that question is no.
My son's not here, so we're nowhere closer.
If you have seen Sebastian or have information about his whereabouts, call the Sumner County Sheriff's Office or the TBI. Those numbers are listed on our website, WKRN.com.
So now we have Seth Rogers, the biological father of Sebastian Rogers, searching for his son and knowing that it is not a rescue operation. This is a recovery operation. Getting ready to kiss 5 months solid in this case. 5 months missing. No sight, no sound, no sense in this case. We have a narrative that's out there that said in a question, I don't know why he walked out that door. I didn't know why she said that. Neither did she take the time to explain why she said that. I don't know why he walked out that door. Well, I'll tell you something, Katie. He didn't walk out the door. He didn't walk out the door. The evidence that supports my statement states that K-9 did not find a hit anywhere around the house. So now you're stuck because he's in the house. Something happened inside that house that night. But now we got to back it up a little bit because things just don't happen in a pop, even though they do. But there is a cause and effect matter that we have to deal with. They have to grow to the pop. They have to get to the point. It's funny how when they had the interview with Nancy Grace, everything was very short. Nothing in great detail. I call that the withholding interview. And it was. And Nancy knew they were holding. If you've seen this interview, and I'm sure many of you have, for those that, you have joined me on my live, because I just cut this interview up. You can see it here in this particular interview, how short their answers were as compared to the interviews that were done previous to Nancy's interview. The interview on Olivia's Chronicles, shout out to Miss Olivia, doing an excellent job, boots on the ground, on the spot, in a comfortable setting. They had more to say in this interview than they did to Nancy Grace. If you notice that. If you notice that, because I certainly did. Much more relaxed, but in this particular interview, Olivia was able to comfortably have a conversation with them, talk to them. And they were able to reveal more in a private setting about themselves. This is where we've seen a lot of body language, a lot of eye language, if you will, a lot of rhythm between the two of them trying to stay on point concerning this narrative that they put out there as to what happened. The story comes from Katie. The story comes from Katie, not Chris. He's not smart enough to know when to keep his mouth shut and stop trying to fill in the details as if he were there, but he keeps insinuating this, automatically putting himself there. And he doesn't subconsciously know that he's doing it. This is the telltale sign he can't see for himself. He subconsciously doesn't know that his physical response is telling more the truth than what's coming out of his mouth. Because remember, he told us he was at work in Memphis at the job. They also told us that they were on the phone that night for several hours up until near about 12 p.m. That's what they told us. But in looking and studying, this whole thing takes an entirely different perspective. They had private interviews on YouTube in a very relaxed, I believe Miss Duchess had a great interview with them, and they told details far more than they did with Nancy Grace. Far more than Nancy Grace. So what made them buckle up as soon as they got with Nancy Grace? They told a little bit more here. They told a little bit to Olivia. They told a lot to Miss Duchess. They told a lot to Miss Smiley. And then by the time we got through all of these interviews, there's a lot of shady stuff going on. Why are they changing the story all of a sudden? They didn't add that. They didn't add that piece to the last time they had an interview, but they don't know that. They felt that they could tell a little bit more, give a little bit more detail than the other one. It's with somebody else anyway. Not knowing that all of us who've been following this story have been putting every single one of these interviews together and putting the language, the linguistic patterns together enough to understand what statements they made, what statements were omitted. Now they go on TV with a Nashville reporter sitting here in front of us, and the story starts to get short. We don't need to discuss the details that we did on YouTube, so we'll just say, oh, well, we were out and about that day, and we came home, and Sebastian was in his room. He was playing with his toys, and around 9 o'clock, I told him to go to bed. He said he would. He did. Made some noise at about 10 o'clock. I said, knock it off, go to bed. And then I shortly went to bed thereafter because I was on the phone with Chris, reading a book and studying at the same time on a phone call that took a few hours to get through. Key ingredients to a buildup. What I wanted to know, I said, okay, we got to the house. Okay, where were they before that? Because this is where she started streamlining the narrative about how Sunday went. Walk us through that day. Walk us through the evening that night. We've heard those questions asked. That night was a part of something, of events, daily events. We woke up for breakfast, she told Duchess. Made breakfast. He was smiling. He was laughing. He was enjoying himself. Everything was good. Everything was normal. They're instituting normal. Like, a regular day. He was behaving himself. We've heard that language as part of this narrative, behaving. And with Duchess, she walked Duchess through the day. And then from that point, it got shorter and shorter and shorter. By the time we got to the Nashville News Reporter, it was, we were out and about that day, and then we got home. Boop. Damn, that quick? Why wasn't the story the same as when they first told Duchess the story? What was it? What was the change up for? Why'd they do that? Part of the day from that conversation with Duchess is that they went out. They went to a place called BJ's. We've heard that. They were out and about. They went bowling. We've heard that. There was an aunt, two aunts and a cousin that was a part of that Sunday somehow, somewhere, in some way, who saw Sebastian at one of those locations. Okay. And then they went out to dinner. Now, from what I gathered, when I was able to find out, and I conferred with the other content creators about this particular detail, Katie and Sebastian went to dinner by themselves. After bowling, after BJ's, after any other thing that they did that day. And they ended up going here. Texas Roadhouse. Beautiful, gorgeous restaurant. And as I told you on my last live, This place is well situated. Got a great menu. It's fully accommodatable. It seems like, hey, people go there on a Sunday after church, after services is over. Some people don't feel like cooking or hadn't cooked the day before to have their meals ready and prepared. So they go out to a Roadhouse for a steak or whatever they enjoy eating. This is where we were told they went. What time they got there, we don't know. I do not know yet. But there's a timeline here at this Texas Roadhouse. And it kept bothering me. There's not much detail about the Texas Roadhouse being explained in their narrative. How come? See, we went out to eat or we went out to dinner is so vague. They could have went to a drive-through and sat in the parking lot and ate. That's dinner. Texas Roadhouse, you want to walk in. You want to sit down. You want to have you a meal in the ambience of comfort and enjoy whatever it is that you order. And I started scratching my head. I said, wow. I said, well, I wonder what waitress or waiter or whoever served them that night, I wonder what they experienced. How long they had their dinner meal that night before they left. Before they left. What did they order? What did Sebastian order? How much of his meal, if he ate, did he finish? Was he enjoying his meal? What drink did he order? Did he interact with any of the customers or even with the person serving them that night? I wonder what the server's impression or experience was when they served Katie and Sebastian being alone in this restaurant that night. I would love to know, and I'm sure everyone in this chat room would love to know what that conversation was all about. Whether Sebastian used the restroom, whether he got up, whether he was fidgety, whether there were other children there trying to capture his attention, whether he interacted with anybody else, walking over to other people's tables. Did he ever get up? Did she ever go to the bathroom herself? Did Sebastian go to the bathroom after eating before they left this restaurant? Was anything stirring up here with Sebastian? Was he having a normal, regular, behaving himself type experience here at the Texas Roadhouse? Well, she did mention when I say she, I meant Katie. She mentions this particular interview. Who saw you? It was me, Sebastian, the staff, she says. Now, when a person uses the word staff, that's more than one person. That's what start making me scratch my head about the Texas Roadhouse dinner. Staff. So they must have interacted with a number of people from the staff who witnessed them here at this restaurant. Uh-huh. Okay. How many people from the staff did they interact with? Waiter? Person at the counter? When they paid for the food? Who did Sebastian interact with at this restaurant? How was he before he left? How were they before they left? Did she get a phone call, meaning Katie, during the time that they were eating? If so, who was she talking to and about what? What was the conversation about? What were the elements of the conversation? Was it enough for her to take her attention off Sebastian and then Sebastian put his attention on something else? Did this become an agitating type situation between her being busy and Sebastian being curious? Remember, he's 15 years old. I believe we have to consider this as a prime to whatever occurred in the house. This is part of the narrative that's not spoken about specifically, along with the bowling. How was he at bowling? Did he get up and bowl? Or was he told to sit down and watch? Is Sebastian a bowler? If so, what's his score? Does he have his own bowling ball? Or is it a rental? Did he interact with anyone in the bowling area? The staff? Other young teens or even children that went bowling that Sunday afternoon? All those details are left out. So you can see the construct now. You can see the construct. What was included and what wasn't included in these interviews all across the board. Thank you, Miss Duchess. Shout out to Miss Duchess for having that interview, which now culminated into other interviews. We actually see the story flip like a house of cards. A house of cards. And I said, okay. Let's see what else we can do. I'm going to bring up my brother Boss is in the building, and we're going to see if I can get this next piece up here, because when I started doing my research, Boss, you there? And I want to thank Miss Mama Bear. Much love to you if she's in the building. I know a lot of you in here. 400 people, my goodness. Much love to Mama Bear, Miss Carol Smith, Miss Justice. Oh my goodness. The number of you sending me emails left and right. I was like, okay, is something wrong with my email box? It's exploding over here for helping support the work that I do here on my channel. Yeah, so Boss, when you're ready to come up, I know if you hear me, when you're ready to come up, you know what to do. Anyway, let's see if I can find this clip. Okay, I think. All right.
Yep.
Boom. There he is, folks. My brother, Mr. Bossman Blake, is in the building.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, that was a great intro. Hey, what you just spoke on from the beginning of this live to the point you're at now. Excellent job, my brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Excellent job, because the beginning of your monologue, when you was talking about, them from the parents having to deal with Sebastian and his autistic ways, should I say, and Sebastian have to deal with them. He's living in a world that they don't understand. And I have firsthand experience with this type of situation because I dated a woman who had an autistic kid. And it was new to me. I didn't understand it. And there was a lot of things that disrupted my regular pattern of living. And I didn't know how to handle it because I'm that person. I don't have a lot of patience. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Mhm.
But one thing you have to understand is when you're dealing with a woman, you have to learn, especially if you love her, you love everything that comes with her. You can't say you love her if you can't deal, or should I say, accept her kids and how they are. It's a difficult situation, people, if you're not used to it. So that really goes in my mind because I've been there. And I was younger, but me and her still talk, and she tells me things that's going on, and it's crazy. And I feel bad that we didn't make it, but me and her are still good friends. And I think that what you said plays a very important part on if anybody wondered why Chris would do anything, or anybody would wonder why Katie would do anything. Katie is probably like, God, my son he keeps being a burden on my relationship. Well, when it comes to a mother, you're supposed to have unconditional love for your children. But who expect to have or birth an autistic child or a child that has special needs? Nobody. Nobody. So it's something different that you have to learn and make it your life. Because when you're dealing with an autistic kid, that's a lifelong journey.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't stop when they turn 18. It doesn't. And I think it can be hard if you're weak-minded or your love isn't genuine. That's all I want to say, my brother.
I hear you, brother. And thank you. Thank you for putting an ad to that because it took me some time to begin looking at the individuals involved in this case, and Sebastian's world is entirely different than the individuals around him. And that's a critical element that which is a detail, which needs to be spoken about so that people can understand. Yeah, they're trying to tie this into, like a wholesome family that goes to church, that does things together, and that goes fishing and rowboating and canoeing and horseback, the typical family type story. But in this case, what is different about the story is Sebastian because he's different.
Right.
And it
And
plays a very important and major role, is the key part of what makes this story what it is. And so knowing that, they had this dinner here at this restaurant and there had to be some interaction between Katie, Sebastian, the staff, the server, the waiter, this whole experience. They got here, they ate, they expended time eating, and there was yet no details mentioned about the restaurant. Now she could have mentioned it. It wouldn't have really hurt anything. Or she could have mentioned bowling, and it really wouldn't have hurt anything because they've already included it into the narrative. They just never gave any great detail about it. Of the normal regular day.
right. I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as far as the footage is concerned, Did Roadhouse have footage catching them leaving the restaurant? I'm not
Right.
sure.
And that was the part. That was the part I was just about to get to, brother.
Okay. My bad.
You're on point. My brother is always. Oh man, we walk together. Look out. Yeah. You know, why wasn't there an explanation? A connecting explanation. You all know what I'm talking about.
Here I go again.
This is a mother's maternal instinct connected to her biological son. Here's how we spent the day, and I'm going to take my time with it.
Well, John, I'm going to say this again. I would expect for law enforcement to interview people like this because they had some type of interaction with Sebastian that day prior to him going missing.
Right.
I would hope so. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go through years of training to understand, you know, you need to question everybody that maybe came in contact with the young man or the family, period. If they did not, that's a problem, John. That's a problem.
It is. It is. I see voices behind the wall in the building. Much love to Miss Cher and Mr. Cher. Mark,
Salute.
much love to you guys in Canada. Shay's Safe Place is in the building. Miss Shay is in the building. All right.
Salute to everybody in the chat. We appreciate the love.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Content creators carrying this case. So when I listened to Smiley's interview, I think it was the very first one that came out, and heard what was said. I was making some notes. And the next thing I know, I get a link to Miss Duchess's interview. I said, okay. You mean they're scouting the YouTube streets? Yep. And made some notes. And then I came across Olivia's Chronicle of Olivia, who did a one-on-one in-person interview. Okay. Nashville News did an interview. Then here we go with Nancy Grace. And that's where I came from, the Nancy Grace interview. And then I started to go backwards. And I thank all those content creators that took their time out to do that. Do those interviews. And all those folks who knew me, who wanted me to get involved in this case. One thing links to the other. But in this particular situation, we have also included, let me get this down, coming up, we have Voices Behind the Wall. Mark and Cher is in the building.
Yes, we are. He's doing some kind of tour or something outside, but he'll be in shortly. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
And we'll both be joining.
Glad for you to join.
So I was just thinking, like, I've been a caregiver for many years of my life, caregiver to adults and children's, and the most recent event would be my ex-boyfriend, who I have 2 kids with, and his mom got Alzheimer's in her late 40s. And so she had it for, I think, 5.5, 6 years before I had to actually put her in a hospital because she started being like harmful to, myself. And I was worried that she would hurt the grandkids because she's just not thinking clearly anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. And she passed away shortly after, within 2 months of putting her in the hospital, she passed away. So my point of this is being a caregiver is very, 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 very hard. And so when some people are like, well, I just like, what does Katie gain from it? I don't see, for me, Katie looks like a shell of a person. She looks dead inside, in my opinion. So, and now after our great conversation Friday, I've been doing a lot more looking and like Mark and I playing things, and I'm looking at her, and when I'm looking at her now, I'm like, damn, now I see her as a shell of a person in some of these replays and looking at her. So I'm not sure, I mean, I think she had her hands full with Sebastian for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
It's so sad, but and not even her fault, you guys. Statistically, these things happen, and it's hard. So people used to get mad at me because I say I believe she snapped on him maybe for wetting the bed or something, and that's why Sebastian's missing. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I do see that Katie could snap, especially in being around with Chris, and so they egg that on probably from her. So it's just really unfortunate to see that. Yeah, and much deeper conversation I think you're getting in tonight, but another conversation we'll get there for many reasons why I think this is going on now. But yeah, you guys opened my eyes to Katie, and I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm witnessing.
Yeah.
I would like to go back real quick, John, to a comment in your chat by Samantha. She says she have 2 teenagers with autism, and she knows that Sebastian did not run away or walk off. I agree with her 100% because, like I said, I know autistic kids. I had firsthand experience, like I told you guys earlier, and they go off a repetition. They don't really like to break the repetition that they deal with. So going off in the middle of the night is something that's not going to happen, for one. 2, for someone to come and take Sebastian, you have to ask, for what? You know what I'm saying? If you take a kid, we know 9 times out of 10 they're either going to be SA or it's going to be some type of ransom. You're not going to take a
Right.
kid who has autism because that can be a problem for you trying to not get caught, I should say, because they don't understand, but they know something is not right. This is not my ordinary regular day routine. Something is wrong. They're going to act up. They're going to really act up. So you have to understand he didn't walk off and he wasn't taken.
But see, that's why I tie those marks back to Chris's arms.
Yeah, he only gonna go with who he knows. That's it. And
Right.
now that brings the question: did he leave alive or unalive? That's the question.
It had to be, in my opinion, since you brought that question up, Boss Man Blake, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good to talk to you again. Hi. John, thanks for shooting me the invite in this, because
Yes,
I'm all
absolutely.
over it now. So
Yes, I do have an email, and Holly,
so
Miss Justice, or Miss Carol Smith, you can drop my email in the chat for Holly.
do you guys remember when my dad said, my dad has to help you now? Like, Cher, your dad has to be the one to help. When everyone knows what my dad's done, right? So really odd they thought he needed his help, right? But I'm going to find the clippings. It's there. I've played it for you guys before, but when Dawn and Candace had all their kids taken away, they were living their best life, you guys. Like, that's what they really truly wanted, and that's scary. And I don't know how they are not behind bars right now, but they said that. Now, without the boys, they can grow together and learn to love each other more and like grow into one another and be better husbands and wife now that we don't have all the kids. Like, that's what they thought. So, like, jealous of the kids much? Damn. Candace, crazy. So we got some of that, I do believe, in this case as well.
Right. And when you can, start to compare case patterns, linguistic patterns, you can begin to see if this is a narrative or if it's honest, if it's, because we've seen it over and over and over again, especially, like I said, content creators that have studied cases like this, not just watched, studied these cases, study body language. And
You're right.
right, because I went to Katie because according to the narrative, she was the last one in the house alone, according to the narrative, to have seen Sebastian. Now, we have an autistic.
Do you think it's possible for Katie to get rid of Sebastian and Chris not even know?
I haven't really gotten to build that far into that groove.
Okay, I'm going too deep right now. Too deep, too fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see where you're headed, though. But I see where you're headed.
Okay.
I wanted to they went out to eat. There was nothing really spoken about what they had, anything. They went bowling. Nothing really spoken about bowling. How long they were there, who they interacted with. Nothing. It was a skip over when they got to Nancy Grace, because she was the one who already had the narrative and explained it to them. And all they said was, "Yep, that's what we said." Is it my understanding that this was a Sunday and y'all were out? It was a regular day, and you guys went bowling. You went to a place called BJ's, and then you went to dinner, and then you went home. Is that correct? Yep. I said, wow, what happened to the details? And that's what lured me to say, okay, let me start to work backwards here. I need information about that bowling alley. Anybody who has information about that bowling alley, please send it to me. Miss Justice is dropping my email constantly in the chat. Send it to me.
Mark just joined the conversation, by the way. He is here now.
Oh, okay, great. I need to have the information about the bowling. I need to have the information about the popcorn, where they got that from, because I'm looking for surveillance cameras. I'm looking for interaction, access points. I can put them on my map, and I can begin to designate a timeline from it, because these are things that were not mentioned in the narrative, the details, that is, in the narrative. And I'm bothered by that. I said, how dare she skip over the details of something very important according to that day? Because as Olivia began opening up her conversation with them, as Miss Duchess opened up the conversation, walk us through your day. And now your ears are like glued to hearing who starts first. You're glued. And now you get Katie beginning the warm-up session as to what that day is. Chris has to automatically exclude himself from that because, remember, he wasn't there.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently, he wasn't there. So I said, okay. Okay, boss. So let me play this clip because I said, okay, we're at the restaurant. Details are missing. Was there anything going on during the time they were at the Texas Roadhouse? Anything? Was there anything going on when they went bowling? Did Sebastian act up wanting to have a popcorn? Was there a craving for popcorn at that very moment? Did he have something to drink with it? Did he have it in the car? Did he have it outside the car? Was it in the parking lot? Was it on the way? Who was the aunt, and cousin? How did they interact? For how long did they interact? Where did they interact? What was their impression of Sebastian at that time when they did interact before they went to dinner? And this is where I begin to start to drill and dig for details. That which is not said, the details are hidden. I've always believed that in the Kanika Jenkins case. I believe that in the California City Boys case, Summer Wells case, Madeline Soto's case, Amari Nicholson's case, and here I'm now utilizing the same principles in the Sebastian Rogers case. So when I said, okay, what time did they actually leave the restaurant? Because this restaurant should have external cameras. You got a huge parking lot. It's a high liability not to have some kind of security for the exterior portions of the perimeter of the restaurant, because you're responsible for people parking there, and they're bringing their personal property to your property. And so, are there cameras there? If so, where? How were they caught? Till I came across this.
Week, Seth Rogers, Sebastian's father, told the host of the Pascal show that he saw video evidence that his son was alive on Sunday, February 25th. Let's take a listen.
I had requested video proof that my son was alive after I spoke to him on Thursday.
What footage was that?
They showed me footage of him leaving Texas Roadhouse and getting into his mama's vehicle with her.
Texas Roadhouse. So he was getting in a vehicle with Katie Proudfoot from eating at Texas Roadhouse, correct?
Yes.
Your hard.
So here we have video surveillance from the Texas Roadhouse being confirmed by Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, saying that they got captured leaving. I would love to see that video. I would love to see how they walked to the car. How far was the car? Was the car in a handicapped parking spot? Was the car parked with many other cars? Was it in a row? Was it in a corner? How far did they have to walk? Were they walking together? Or was Sebastian walking in front of her, in the back of her? It's dark. This is February. Daylight savings time hadn't kicked in. We're talking about a wintertime deal. What was the temperature outside? What coat or physical gear did Sebastian wear that day? What shoes did he wear? What color did he wear? Did he have a soda in his hand when he left? Did he have anything in his hand? I want to know those details.
I want to know if anyone also left the parking lot at the same time.
Right. If there was anyone in front of them, if there was anyone behind them. Did they meet anybody in the parking lot? And then they went home together.
Yep.
See? Details. I'm sure that's going to come out if and when that time comes. But details from those interviews were not discussed. And they were not discussed intentionally. And Chris coming up as a cock blocker, talking about law enforcement told us that we can't do this. Law enforcement said that we can't divulge that information. We don't have permission to give out that information about her company vehicle. And think, oh, did you ask? No. What shoes did he wear? What color did he wear? Did he have anything in his hand? I want to know those details. Oh, did you ask? No. Oh, well, how do you know? Where we getting all private all of a sudden? We're here to try to help you to find your son Sebastian. Now you want to
Right.
go. Now you want to go private? What are you doing? What are you doing? See?
Yep.
And so it's critical to begin pulling together the details and only the facts and let them begin to talk for Sebastian, because he's not here right now to say anything about how Sunday went. And Katie did a miserable job trying to explain it. She started out the gate okay, and I was hoping that they would be able to add more details as they got right down to Nancy Grace, but it just went the opposite. As soon as I got to Nancy, the walls went up.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as a polygraph test pops up, we hear that she takes one, but he doesn't. Why? It's voluntary, and you, of course, want to exclude yourself. Hey, we had nothing to do with him going. Okay, well, put the pedal to the metal. Step up, man up. He promised that Nancy Grace, hey, name the place and the time. I'll be there. And lied to her. Came back as a follow-up on the phone call when she asked him to come back for the follow-up. Oh yeah, law enforcement told me that I don't have to take the polygraph test and to no longer do any more interviews with you. Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they said.
Law enforcement is his daddy. That's who he keeps hiding behind. Because if he can't answer the question, he's got to give a distraction. He's got to use misdirection, deflection, in order to get out of it. Give him enough time to think of an answer which would be logically accepted, and then go from there. Don't ask me that. None of your business. It's our business. It's family matters. It's none of your business. Attitude kicks into play. But yet, we're all here to try to help you find Sebastian. How is it possible for you to want help and then reject it at the same time when people ask you certain questions?
Mm-hmm.
And you're making yourself on a different level, on a subconscious level, sort of strange and weird looking when it comes to wanting to know what happened.
Very much so, because I don't know how many times he's said that phrase, what I can tell you is, or what we will tell you is. I mean, that, without saying it, that says that they have more information than they're going to share.
Right. Or he uses law enforcement to say, well, there's information that we can't share because this is an ongoing investigation, and I got sick of it. I said, this guy's full of shit. I just said it straight out. I said, they're hiding something, and it's the details. It's just the details.
Absolutely.
And by holding those details, you begin to actually inject a different narrative into the story. Now, when people start to realize that and then start to speak out on that, you come back mad on different people's platforms and try to say that they don't have their facts straight. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Oh, okay. Well, why don't you tell them? All you have to do is ask me. Well, when they ask you, you say law enforcement told you that you couldn't say anything.
Yep.
So what's the point?
Yeah, it tells people that they don't have their facts right, and you say, well, tell us what's right. Oh, I can't.
Yeah. He wants to make things perfectly clear. Well, you haven't really. All we have heard and seen you do is to try to cover for the details that Katie should be talking about with other details outside of what happened that night. That's what you've been doing.
Yes.
That's what you've been doing. You know, when asked about his lights outside that night, Well, one thing about video surveillance camera that I've learned covering from the Kanika Jenkins case all the way through in different other cases that I've involved myself is timestamps and dates. This one has a timestamp and date. And for some strange reason, as it fell into the story, it's got the wrong date in it. But we're told from a different party that it was that night. It's just that the camera wasn't working properly. I said, oh, damn, not another one.
It seems like it happens every time.
Right, at a critical time.
Yeah.
You get these two floating lights that night in the common area, as we spoke of, floating around, going back and forth a little after 3 o'clock in the morning that morning, with steady solid lights in the background, maybe reflecting off of a building through that common area. Could have been somebody else's garage. Okay, when the police come back and said that that evidence, if you will, didn't hold any evidentiary value. I said, really? Wait a minute. You get a neighbor's camera. You get a neighbor's camera. Let me do this. Because when I get started, I get started. And I want to show you why I get started the way I do. Because when I'm in the hunt for something, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. Just as I found in the Kanika Jenkins case, I'm going to find it in this one too. As boss man Blake, my brother, would say, it's time to go to work. And as 54 Keys would say, take us down, John. Here we are, Stafford Court. This house right here, sitting on the corner of Kellen Lane and Stafford Court, where the camera had captured those night lights floating somewhere in this common area, according to what was put together, right? Okay. Also, there was, let me see if I put it in my panel over here. I think I did. 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 Yes, I did. Boom. I think this is the one. Yeah. Can you all see that? Type of one in the chat if you can see that image right there. It's an image of Google Maps and an alleged car sitting right off of Caitlin Lane and Stafford Court, not too far from the house with the camera, sitting in the dark on a street that has no lights. Now you've got these floating lights in the common area going back and forth, to and fro, in that direction. I said, wait a minute, what? I spoke to Miss Mandy, Spirit Seeker Squad, and she really did a nice video that showed exactly this map here and pinpointed exactly the direction it went in when it left. It backed up. I wonder if it backed up with the engines on, or was it just put in neutral and rolled back? Because there is a hill or a mound, if you will, and I'll get to show that to you in a second, as to how that car may have gotten out of there without anyone hearing it. Whatever time that was, let's just keep the 3:11 position, if you will. Okay, and this car just rolls backwards, go back to Kellen, and then starts to pull down the street toward the main road that takes you out of there. So, okay, did that really happen? Was Sebastian out there that night in the floating lights? And I'm still working on that piece because it's on the table until it comes off. It's been eliminated. There is no evidentiary value. Everything is of evidentiary value until you eliminate it. I don't know how he came to that conclusion. He may have taken a look at the date of the video and then came to the conclusion, well, based on that fact, that camera wasn't working properly. That date's wrong, and I really can't go present that evidence to a DA's office to say, yeah, those lights have a significance in this case because it happened on the date that Sebastian went missing. Well, why is the date wrong? I can't put that in front of a grand jury to get an indictment on that. You got to come a little bit better than that. Oh, okay. Because that was one of the main things that they basically tried to get was video surveillance cameras from the neighborhood when the boys went missing. One of the main things they tried to get when Summer Wells went missing. The main thing when Amari Nicholson went missing. People looking for cameras. You know, what we're told about this neighborhood and cameras is that Katie knows a lot about the cameras in the neighborhood. I said, I'll be damned. Then I found out that, she's a installation technician for Brink Security. I said, okay. Talk about hitting the nail on the head. She would know about these cameras, these doorbell cameras, the window installed cameras, cameras on the building, operating systems, softwares packages that come with these cameras, whether you use it on a computer or on a phone. And yet they had no security in the house. I don't know. I've been hearing about cameras inside the house, but they couldn't reveal or release that information to the public. Have you heard that? They couldn't release that information to the public. But this house right here caught those lights in the common area here, where an alleged car sitting in the dark here backed up on Kalen Lane and left all the way down the street to the main road. That's what we're expected to believe. You see, that's a hard one. Because Sebastian never left the house on his own accord. That canine scent dogs would have picked up his scent and started leading law enforcement down the street and followed that scent hard. It being the next day after he went missing, after that call went into the sheriff's department rather than 911. I believe the reason why the 911 call was avoided was to prevent it from being recorded. Call the sheriff's office because we knew them there. Well, really? Well, thank you, Chris. And they got there within about 10 minutes or so, give or take. Didn't take them long. And here we go. What he said. That's the short answer. All right, so what was the little over 2 hours conversation that you and Katie had that night? What was that about? See, no detail. Hence, the evidence is on their phone as to the duration and the date and the time of the call. Yet the details of the call have not been even talked about. What'd you guys talk about? How the day was? What did Katie say about how the day went? Were you at work at that time? Almost being that you spoke until midnight. If you were in Memphis, or were you en route to the house during the time of the call? Because something happened in the house. Maybe Sebastian didn't want to take his medicine because he got used to having coffee with his father. And his father, Seth, said that coffee does calm him down. And he didn't want to take his medicine. He wanted a cup of coffee. She said, no. You need to take your medicine. He said no. He didn't want to take the damn medicine. He was tired of taking the medicine. Was it administered medicine or was it self-administered medicine? Did Sebastian take his own medicine? What kind of medicine was it? A pill? Liquid? Something to help him sleep? Was it enough medicine to knock him out? Or let's just say, had a moment. Was there a moment that happened at that time? The reason for the call to Chris to be on there well over 2 hours until midnight for him to tell her to go to bed. Another grown-ass adult telling another grown-ass adult to go to bed. She didn't even check on him at 10 o'clock when she allegedly heard the thump or a thud in his room. Didn't even go to check it. If it was loud enough for her to hear, if she was paying that much attention to it, enough to hear it, but yet do nothing about it. Make sure the kid's okay. I know my parents would have checked on me and said, hey, didn't I say knock it off? Open up the door. Was the door open or closed? Was he used to going to bed with the door open or closed? Details. He wouldn't have gone out the window because we would have heard him, said Chris. I said, wait a minute, run that back again? Mandy, I love you. She played that piece again. We wouldn't have gone out the window. He would have stepped in the mulch. Oh, we definitely would have heard him. What do you mean we would have heard him? How are you going to hear that when you're at work, man? How are you going to hear that if you're at work? Wait a minute. You're talking like if you were there. And that's the subliminals that are, you can't hold those back. That's a God thing. Internal strife, you want to call it, internal conflict. The truth versus a lie going on inside of your mind. And you're trying to study the narrative, the construct, and yet the truth, being a part of you, is trying to get out at the same time. The same time. A controlled fabrication, if you will. Can't do it. You can't hold it long. It'll spill out just like it has been during the course of the interviews. That's what I picked up on. And I'm sure that a lot of you have picked up on that. A lot of you have picked up on that. Then content creators began saying it. I said, oh, okay. Hey, yo, do you see what I see? Do you hear what I hear? Because they don't. Sebastian did not walk out of this house. The canine scent dogs stops that narrative right there. So if you didn't walk out, how do you get out? You say you didn't go out the window. Okay, because the scent dogs would have picked it up if you did. If you would have left out that side garage area on the side of the house, well, the scent dogs would have found that too. If he would have went out the back door, scent dogs would have picked that out too. Nothing around the house at all was hit. And that's so you got law enforcement scratching their head. Okay, so how the hell did he get out the house? And my brother boss, he threw something down on the table when we had a round table, and I said, bingo, he's taking out the house. How was he taking out the house, John? Through the garage. You know, an interior door that's attached to the kitchen leads right down to this doorway here to the side. And right next door to it is a garage. If something happened, all you had to do was put him in your car. Why would you do that? Well, his scent is already in the car. So if they check your car with the scent dogs, it would have been natural for the dogs to smell him in the car because that's what he rode in when you came home from dinner, right? The Infinity. So you take him out when you leave to look for him. I mean, 1 + 1. How else is he going to get out that house without nobody seeing him leave that house? Cameras and all. Cameras and all. No one sees him. Dogs can't smell him. How does he leave? You didn't figure that one out, though. What do you do? Go upstairs, get on the roof, and jump from roof to roof to get out of there? What other way would there have been for Sebastian to get out of that house if the tracking dogs couldn't pick him up on the ground? And it's a challenging question, and that's the question that I was challenged with. And as soon as we put this on the round table, I said, boss said the only way you get out of the house is if you take him out. What is it, at night? Or was it during the day, the natural course of going out to search for him. Everybody else thinks that seeing the car that morning, hey, he's going to school. Maybe she's taking him to school. He's not getting the bus. Perhaps. And that's just my theory. It's just my theory. Because he damn sure didn't walk out of the house. Chris doesn't show up until 1 o'clock that afternoon. Where was he? Where was Chris? Because remember now, they were on the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning. 6:03. She's out the door. She's on the phone with him. He had to travel to get back to the house. Takes 3 hours and 37 minutes, door to door. Why did it take him so long to get home after making the sheriff's call that morning? How would he know if the sheriff got there in 10 minutes? Real quick. Who did he know at the sheriff's office? Who did the sheriff come with? Seth was there at about 8:30, give or take, a little after 8:30. He was called 7:20. He was contacted a little after 7 in the morning. Was that Katie on the phone? Or was it Chris? And then he shows up. Police are there. I'm trying to figure out now what happened. And hence the narrative begins. I woke up at 6 to wake him up to go to school, and he wasn't there. During the interview, I don't know why he walked out that door, giving Sebastian an excuse. Which door? The front door, the back door, the side door? 3 doors, 3 access points. Which door? Why would you believe that? No shoes. No coat. He walked out with what he wore to sleep. You see what they didn't figure out? Smart enough to take his glasses and a little pocket flashlight. Okay. Was he mad at you? Let's back up a little bit. Was he mad at you? Was he upset at you? Was there something that happened throughout the course of the night to where now he's not even in the house when you wake up? Or did you go to sleep? Was it about Dad? I'm talking about Seth. Y'all talk about him? Was it about him? The upcoming weekend? Did it have anything to do with Chris? Did it have anything to do with the whack from the belt? Was Chris still pissed at him for trying to get him in trouble with CPS, who came to the house at that time of the whack with the belt? Told a different story. And Chris is telling them that he's telling the story. And then comes on here to give us a narrative, which is a story. their story. I want Sebastian's story. That's what I want. I don't want your story because I'm starting to bust that up right now. This shit is not working. I want Sebastian's story. I want to hear it from him. When you woke up that Sunday morning, Sebastian, what happened? What were you doing? How did you wake up? How were you feeling? What did you eat for breakfast? What did you have to drink? When did you get dressed to go out? What time did your day actually start? Where did you go first? How long were you there? What did you see? I want Sebastian to tell me his story. Because Chris and Katie don't cut it with me. When I first heard it, I said something's wrong. I did what Miss 54 Keys would say. Wait, what? Uh-oh. We got a problem. That narrative is not clicking. Matter of fact, me mentioning 54 Keys, Miss 54 Keys is in the building. Come on up, Miss 54 Keys. Talk about perfect timing.
Hey, what's going on, John?
Miss 54 Keys is in the house. Welcome.
Oh, man. Much love to the chat. What's going on, everybody? Listen, let me say this.
Yes, please.
We've covered enough cases to know the truth don't change. You understand what I mean? So you know, when you always hear me say you have to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the questions that I asked from the very beginning, you know, I'm like, wait a minute. It don't sound right. You know, and then it's just a sad situation because we're dealing with a missing child. And we got parents who story don't make sense. It don't make sense to me. I'm still confused on, you know, what happened after Texas Roadhouse. And I know we discussed that before, but who saw him after that? That's a problem for me. You know, and I know in the beginning, because I've been in the bushes, you know, so I've been listening. In the beginning, you were saying that you believe Chris was home, correct? Even though the story we've been given was that he was at work.
Right.
Now, I know when we were on Marcus Sheriff's panel, I started to think, you know, he may have been there. But I mean, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that.
Right.
Because it seemed like to me from the start, when I first started getting the details, that he was just in cover your ass mode, where something happened, you know, it's only Sebastian and Katie, and then she freaks out, call him, and then he went to clean up her fuck up. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like, so you said you believe he was there? Wouldn't the police know, you know, by tracking phones? Wouldn't they know if he was there?
Yeah, you could almost put your finger on whether they do know about that or not. You know,
Right.
whether there was more than one phone used, a work phone, a personal phone, a burner phone. You know, any of those things. Those are details that are not in public yet. You know,
Right.
The narrative just says calls were made. That's
Right.
it. That's it. They didn't say which phone. My private cell phone. I use my work phone. I use Sebastian's phone. We use the phone on a computer. It just gives you the appearance that communication was only had one way.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's one of them situations where I need more details for that part.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
for
Right.
that part.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, he kind of threw me when he was saying, "Oh, well, the police said, you know, basically not to tell y'all when I've been home." And I was like, "What? I mean, what's the secret?
Right.
You was either there or you wasn't. I mean,
Right.
it just is what it is." So I'm not really understanding that excuse. That
He
he
tried
gave.
to be evasive with Nancy Grace about that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So you left at the beginning of February and didn't come back until the 26th. That is correct. Okay. You mean you didn't visit the home? Did you visit the home? Yes. When? I visited the home. Well, and then he backed up.
Yeah.
He backed up right away. I mean, she had him going, but he felt he was being caught in a vacuum. He's just about to say, and then he backed up with law enforcement.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Which says that there are dates within February that he did visit the home. He was there. He's just not saying the 26th, excuse me, 25th, because he would have cut his own throat if that was one of the dates, or the weekend, Friday, Saturday, into Sunday, and then left Sunday to go back to work.
Right.
Type stuff, you know. So there's a holdup there. There's withholding in the month of February as to when he visited the home. And if he did visit the home, how long did he stay? What did they do? What did they eat? Were the situations during those dates? See what I'm saying? Details.
Details.
That's where the details are, just like at the Roadhouse. Details are at the Roadhouse. Details are at the bowling alley. Details are at BJ's. Details are when he got that popcorn. Details are with the two aunts and the cousins that were a part of that Sunday event. Details. What food they were served at the restaurant. What did they eat? How long they stay? What did he have to eat? What did he have to drink? Did he go to the bathroom? Did he interact with anybody there at the restaurant? Details.
Absolutely.
Did they leave with anybody from the restaurant? Details. See, all that swept away in the course of being walked through this narrative, and whoosh, we just got home.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Blows
But
me away.
I did hear the clip that you played of Seth saying that, I mean, basically, you know, he had proof that they were there. So that's not a question. He said he had proof, right? That they were leaving Texas Roadhouse. But then it's like, then what? Like, what? You know what I mean? There's this gap of time that's an issue for me.
Yes. Yes.
You know, we don't know what happened after that.
There's a time gap in the Kanika Jenkins case. There's a time gap in the Summer Wells case. There's a time gap in the West Boys case, time gap in the Amara Nicholson case. When you start to pick up these pockets, these time-gapped pockets, details are within in the pockets. And if those details are not expressed or explained to make sense as to what comes next, life is fluid. It's always in constant motion. You don't break it up, chop it up like a pie, because everything connects into each other.
Yeah.
It's constantly in motion. So the narrative should be a constant motion of how the day started until he went to bed.
Right. And like I said, there's the gaps in time, and you know, we all know how important a timeline is, and that's how they mess up, you know, any case by screwing with the time.
Exactly.
You know, then we feel like we running in circles. We, you know, and I feel like this case is no different.
Yeah. Well, when it's that different, when you can pick out the difference, you know, something is afoot. Something is amiss. Something is not being said right. Something is not being included. You feel things are being added, which doesn't click to the thing previous to it, sort of like a non sequitur. Things that don't make sense from the previous thing said. If I asked you a question about stopping at a red light, you say, well, I saw the sidewalks, they were all clean, and I just kept going down the street. What about the red light I asked her about? Boom. Non-sequential, if you will. Things that are not in sequence, things that don't have a fluid motion to it.
Right.
The natural versus the unnatural. And those interviews, were an unnatural position for them to be in, talking about that subject matter. Our son is missing,
Yeah. And the way I see it, I still can't say Katie intentionally done something, to
I'm
get
with
rid
you
of
on that.
Sebastian. I can't
yeah.
say that. But I do believe that something did happen, and I stand on this. She knows what's going on, whether she caused the death or if Chris caused the death, she knows. So in my eyes, you just as guilty because you ain't saying shit.
Right.
You understand what I mean? So
Right.
she just as guilty in my eyes. So as a mother, I'm a mother. Does she have more love for Chris than her son? Because if something happened and she was present, why not tell it? Why not tell it?
Right.
Or is she trying to save herself if she did something? You understand what I mean? That's what I'm saying. No matter how I slice this, that woman, I ain't gonna call her out her name, but that woman, she knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I stand on
it. And there are other moving parts built in and around this case that Sebastian had definitely has knowledge of. Faith, Chris's daughter. What's going on there?
Right.
Concerning custody going on back and forth. Seth, his father, the conversations that he had with Seth regarding what was going on in the house, the reason possibly for the whack, and maybe other conversations that were had only between Sebastian and Seth about him feeling very uncomfortable being there and that he did not want to go back. Didn't tell his dad why, but just gave him that impression. I don't want to go back. You see? And now his dad exuding every possible measure, means, and method as a biological parent is out there. From the beginning of tonight's live, I showed you the recent news clip that was out there of him searching for his son. He's already accepted the fact that he's already doing recovery searches.
Right.
Hoping not to find him, but he knows that he's already accept that fact if it is a recovery. But he wants to find his son.
Right. I would too. Dead or alive. I want him. You understand what I mean? So
absolutely.
And that's why I took the Seth the way I did, because when I watched those interviews, he seemed genuine to me versus Chris. You understand what I mean? And Katie, he stood out, and to see him having to do these private, quote unquote private searches, he's doing this without them, but they should be standing together because Sebastian should have been loved by all three of them equally, unconditionally. You understand what I mean? And I don't see that. I didn't feel that. And they're so divided, and to me that speaks volumes.
Right. The other thing too that I was able to get a chance to listen to, I don't know if you did or not, was part of Nina's interview that
I was wondering.
yeah, that she had, and it gave is very touching, and it gave a lot of character details regarding the relationship that Chris and her had and what they were going through. And it knocked me back. I'm in the process of re-listening to it, start to study certain situations that I see reflected in the relationship regarding him and Katie. How faith fits into that.
Right.
You see? And the reasoning for the back and forth, the protection order from both of them. You know, they're fearing each other. But yet, I'm in the course of, I saw someone brought that up in the chat. You're going to discuss Nina's interview.
Yeah, I thought we were going I thought we were too.
Yeah, I'm in the process of going over, taking some notes on that to include that as a character reference to Chris. You see? Yeah, and it's like, you know, what we've seen so far unfold, both on social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and discussions had by content creators covering this story, as well as intermediaries and correspondence between people following the story. You know, we're starting to see, you know, a lot of details. You know, there was a content creator who had the divorce decree between Seth and Katie, and going over some of those details. If anybody knows where to get that from, please send it to me. I'd love to read that as to the reason for the divorce that took place between them.
Interesting.
And the custody order that was put in place.
Yeah, somebody in the chat, somebody got it.
Yeah, I mean, I seen it was out there. Shirley's got a question. John, I have a question. When asked if he could go out the window, Chris said he would have fallen into the flower bed and we would have heard him scream. Correct. And that's the piece that Mandy played for me on Mr. and Mrs. Shares Live. I said it puts him in the house if he said we would have heard him.
Yeah, that threw me too. When I heard that, I was like, okay, wait. Yeah.
He's putting himself in the house if he would have gone out the window. So how could you have said that? He didn't realize it. Like I said, this is all that subconscious. Trying to break through the critical mind to get into the realm of truth.
Yeah, the truth shaking around in there.
Oh yeah. You know? Yeah, he's having an internal conflict, trying to remember what the narrative is, what extra details or extra add-on points they wanted to make, and then what to stay away from. What to stay away from. And as incredible as it may seem, he's putting it out there. He's doing it himself. All we're doing is watching and listening and just putting it together. Now, of course, law enforcement is looking at all of this as non-criminal. Okay, they have to get enough evidence, whatever evidence they can. It makes sense because this is where they do their due diligence, whether it's TBI, the Sheriff's Department, the FBI in the background, consulting with the FBI in the background, because now law enforcement's looking at them, whether they know it or not. They've expended everything Hendersonville has expended every means and methods and ways to go out and help search for Sebastian and get to a point to where they had to scale it back because they had done so much searching in a 5 to 10 mile radius. If he's not out here on the street in this circumference from the house, okay, we don't have any evidence in a 10 mile radius. And then as we come back to the house, we don't have evidence around the house. So now it puts him in the house. So who do we have to look at now? See? And that's how they scope it out and then begin to scope it back if they have to.
Narrow it
And
down.
they began scoping it back to the house, just as Chris McDonough did with Summer Wells. I started scoping it back to the house because if they couldn't find her, and as many miles in terrain as in Rogersville, Tennessee, in and around that hilly ass area, you know, hillbilly country, if you want to call it that, she could have gotten that far on foot.
Okay.
See? She was just gone. What do you mean just gone? Can you explain she was just gone? Gone how? Gone where? Is what Candace said. I don't know why he walked out that door, Katie said. And it's strange that it happens when parents are there in the household. You know, something did take place the night before, even into the morning. We don't know. That's where the details lie, right there.
Yep, sure does.
Until that 6 o'clock time where the narrative begins. You didn't hear him get up during the night to go to the bathroom, flush the toilet? Does he do that? See?
Right.
Little details like that, squeeze it out. I remember when I was sleeping, you know, my daughter would get up in the middle of the night. You could hear the toilet, and you know, she'd go in the kitchen, open the refrigerator, get a glass of water, turn on the light, turn off the light, put the water back in the refrigerator, close the refrigerator door, turn off the light, go back to the room, close the door. And a parent instinctively can hear that.
Yeah. I agree with that. And like you said, those are details that we don't have. You know, I remember Katie mentioning the thud, and then nothing. Like, you know, well, she didn't check on him, nothing. So it's hard to believe her story. It's just hard.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I don't ever want, you know, parents falsely accused of doing something to their own child, but this couple right here, they make it hard. It's hard to believe them. And my thing is this, you know, especially when we're dealing with a missing child, lie for what? Lie for what? And again, the truth don't change. So it's just too many holes in in their story. And then I'm watching, you know, like I said, Seth doing his own investigation, and they're not united in this.
Right.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and people picked up on that. You know, whereas Chris said, you know, we call each other, we're in constant communication with each other. You know, the law enforcement has cleared all of us, you know, volunteering all this extra information. Law enforcement didn't say shit, nothing, about nobody being cleared of anything. But they're letting them talk, and that's fine. They're letting them talk, and that's fine. They're capturing all of these statements, and in my mind, they need to be re-interviewed again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Fine tune his timeline regarding Memphis. I'm sure they've spoken to people at his job. When does he work? Did he work that day? How many hours? Da, 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 da. They went over to Yogi Bear and talked to the management there. Is his rent on time? Do you ever see him go in, go out? You got cameras, surveillance, all that stuff they got to dig through. And same thing for Katie. Surveillance footage of her leaving to and fro from the house with Sebastian, without Sebastian, when he would go over to Seth's house, when Faith would come for visits. And thank you. This was interesting. Looking beyond, every time Faith would visit, Sebastian would be sent to Seth's house. Sebastian was never home in the house with Faith visiting. So since it was like an every other weekend kind of visitation, I could see how they were both working around the children, if you will. If that so took place like that. But there are stress factors here. There's a world that Sebastian lives in, and it's a world that they live in. Dealing with their world without. As I said, Chris has his stuff with Nina, and obviously Katie's got her stuff with Seth.
Right.
But yeah, if somebody has got that divorce decree, whoa, cool. I'd love to have it. And I see Miss Carol Smith has been, just texting me a mile a minute as I'm doing this live, and I'm trying to keep my eye on the chat because I'm using that device for the chat while I do the live. I wonder if there were any areas on the way home from the Roadhouse where a person could be tossed away. Interesting. The Canadian cat lady said. Interesting. Very interesting. Here's a Texas Roadhouse right here. I tried to get down there, and I did. But the Texas Roadhouse, this might be an old map of the area. They got a huge shopping mall area here. But as you can see where this yellow balloon is, this is where the Texas Roadhouse would be located in this area. This is where they were caught in video surveillance footage leaving Texas Roadhouse to go in the car. I said, okay, so we got between 12 and 14-minute drive between this location and the house. That goes back up over here. And obviously the first search, and I've got to get my dates correct. Okay, y'all, stop blowing up my phone. I'm trying to work.
I'm working right now.
I'm trying to work the map. I'm still getting stuff. Anyway, the first place of a search, if I have my dates right, was this Laurel Park subdivision. Where it was stated that there was some kind of ascent here, not anything to have anything to do with directly with Sebastian, but a scent of some kind that was here. And so when you figure if she left that morning, the quickest place that she said she went was between the house, down the road to the school. which was here? Who did she see at the school? Who did she ask if they saw Sebastian at the school? How long did she stay here? Was it long enough to do a search or put the word out to the principal, the dean, members of the staff? Say, I'm looking for my son. Is he here? Put the word out.
I don't think she did any of that.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't do none of that. I don't think so. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So, and then enough for her to come back to the house shortly thereafter. 15, 20 minutes, half hour, give or take.
It was 19 minutes to be exact.
Okay, 19. There you go.
So, yeah.
19. So you go back to the house.
I think
You see?
the question would be, how many people believe that she brought him back from Roadhouse to the home, and how many people believe she didn't? Because after they left the Roadhouse, we don't know for sure if he actually made it. Now, going by their narrative, he was home, because she also stated that he checked the mail. We have no evidence of that. But then she also said she talked to him while he was in his room. So with their narrative, it says he made it home.
Right.
And the fact that it's their story just don't sit right with me. I mean, is that the truth? At this point, at this point, we don't know if he made it back to the house. If no one can tell me outside of Katie and Chris, if no one can tell me he was there, then I don't know if he was there, because I can't take their word for it. And like you said, after the Texas Roadhouse, we have that gap of time.
But nobody's seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now the only thing, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The only thing that that was immediately, I guess, because that same Monday, garbage was picked up at a little after 5 a.m. that morning. And so the report that went out regarding that was the police wanted to have that area searched as a precaution, if you will. And so that area here is a landfill search in White Plains, Kentucky. And they probably went to the spot, found out the truck number that picked up that local garbage in that area, that collects from that area, find out what section of the grid of this dumping area that truck went to, and began digging in that area because it was very specific, to try to work to see if there was any evidence, from the house that ended up in that area. They didn't find anything. How long they were there, we don't know. How much of a thorough search did they do? We don't know. But this is where they went. They covered that base. Who knows, they could be out there still under a warrant to cover even further ground. I hope they are. You would think they would, but remember, manpower, hours, and of course the cost of being involved in one particular case when there are other cases evolving at the same time in Tennessee.
Can we all agree? If anybody disagree, I would like to hear, because I'm not 100% versed on search dogs, but she did state that he checked the mail. Wouldn't the dogs pick up his scent from leaving the house to the mailbox? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
I thought he was seen on camera taking out the trash, or they thought maybe that was him on camera taking out the trash.
They couldn't really tell. They really couldn't
Right.
tell if it was him, her, or anybody else.
Right.
But you make a fine point, boss. Yeah, because scent dogs would have went where the trash would go, and even more so the mailbox.
Right.
Yeah, which is right there at the front of the curb.
So if she had the gall to actually say he went to the mailbox and the dogs didn't pick up that scent, then that makes me wonder, did he even make it home then?
Right. So that's why I had to step back from the restaurant, get a time point, get it verified, was verified by Seth, that there was a camera that was on that captured them both leaving the restaurant and entering the car. So that receipt tells me at about the 6:30 mark, give or take 6:15, 6:20, 6:25, close to 6:30, they left together in her car. And that is the final point that we've got so far up until 6 a.m. where she allegedly wakes up and finds him missing outside the house. So that's 11 and a half hours if it's 6:30.
That's a big gap.
You know, you've got a big time gap here because the rest of it contains narrative.
Right. That's a huge gap of us not knowing whether he was at the home or not.
Right. And Seth stated that the last time that he actually heard from Sebastian was that Thursday by phone. So 6:30 from the time they left Roadhouse up until 6 o'clock when the phone call was made, 6:03, excuse me, when the phone call was made to Chris, puts us at a huge time gap. And that's what the law enforcement has got to work with now. They came out there, did their due diligence, went to that location. They went to the foot pond location or the retention area and checked that area where the brand new development's going up, under construction, and checked the dumpster there from what I was able to gather, and still nothing. So where do you go from here? You go back to the house. And then you got to comb that some more. Items that were taken from the house or checked in the house. Obviously, some of Seth's body wear, possibly hair strands from the comb, DNA from the toothbrush. Any place he would have traversed throughout the house. His cell phone, his Twitch.
Yeah, I would hope that, going by their narrative, law enforcement did their research as far as pinging their phones. Because I think, how long did it take to get from the Roadhouse to their home? Was it 19 minutes?
It's about 12 to 14 minutes, give or take. So you can put it in the time body of about 15 minutes.
Okay, and is there proof that we know of that she made it home from the Roadhouse within that time frame?
Right, exactly. That's a receipt that we're still looking for.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, it was just some hearsay out there that someone from a camera from the home did see her car enter the driveway at about the 6 o'clock mark. Excuse me, not the 6 o'clock mark. About something to 7, if you will, quarter to 7, give or take, 7:10 in that ballpark. But I haven't really found any solid confirmation that had occurred.
Okay.
Yeah. So it keeps us at that leaving the restaurant time until there's more sufficient and solid evidence to say that someone was walking their dog in the neighborhood and seen the car pull in.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, being that the neighbor's camera caught someone checking the mail, you would think that they would catch the car pulling up in the driveway.
Yeah.
You would think.
You would think so. Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. But items of interest are, Sebastian and his glasses, pocket flashlight, which wasn't truly expounded on. It was just mentioned that, his flashlight was missing. But it wasn't really expounded on to be a true item of interest, but it was mentioned. A little pocket flashlight. Okay.
But I think it's safe to say, whether you believe that he made it home or not, if you believe he did make it home, you have to go to the 6 o'clock hour.
Right.
Where that's the only time that he could have been removed from the home. And I say removed because that's just what it is. The kid left with no shoes. Why? Remember I said earlier that kids, these autistic kids, are repetition. I'm stepping outside, and remember, it was February. It was cold. The
Right.
kid want to step outside with no shoes on. This is in the middle of the night. It's cold. They will refuse. They will fight you. I need my shoes. Remember, they will do that. I need my shoes, mommy. They're not gonna do that. I trust me. I know. So I feel like he was carried out. That's just how I see it, man.
And it's, you kind of wrap your mind about around, you take that and wrap your mind around that. Just that thought.
Look at the weather. Look at the temperature, John. Soldier Girl. Shout out to Soldier Girl. It was 28 to 32 degrees on February 25th to the 26th. Are you stepping outside with no shoes on, John?
Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I ain't even going outside until it warms up to about 40, 45. For a 15-year-old, that's autistic. Maybe he felt temperature different. I'm not sure, give or take. But now we're talking about time duration. Because no matter, you have a temperature like that going on, all it takes is about 10 minutes, and you're going to start to feel it, regardless on whether you got thick skin or, you take cold differently than the next person kind of thing, but if you're out there long enough, you're going to feel it.
Right. And Cheryl Jones, salute to Cheryl Jones for putting this comment in the chat. She said, if he never made it home, Katie would have had to take his shoes off and create that strength. Oh, you took it off the screen, but why would it makes more sense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It makes you lean towards that he did make it home, because we know at Roadhouse he had on shoes. And if she didn't take him home and did something to him prior to making it home, why would she take his shoes off? Why would his shoes end up in the home and not on his feet wherever he's at? So I agree.
Mm-hmm. But my thing is this. I mean, because I question everything about her story, right? And she's the one telling us there was no shoes missing. Mm-hmm. We don't know that to be true.
Well, law enforcement, I'm pretty sure if she said his shoes was at the house, she had to provide them to them, right? Unless there was a different pair of shoes he had on, right? So I get what you're saying, though.
He was sensitive to his feet, Sally Carson said. And you would figure with that kind of temperature, yeah, it's going to build. Even if you're, not highly sensitive to cold, because like I said, we all don't take cold the same way. We're all unique in our biological systems and point of sensory. So if he was out there 10, 12, 15 minutes, give or take, yeah, you're going to feel it. Let's start hopping around. I got my feet are cold. It's moving up the legs and going past the kneecaps and through the thighs and up the spinal column to the brain, sending all these signals. Shit, it's cold out here.
I feel you, Tar Heel.
You know what I mean?
Tar Heel say, hey, I will feel it in about 2 seconds, especially if you coming from inside of a warm home and now you touching the cold ground. Nah, it ain't gonna take that long, I don't believe. I'm with you on that, Tar Heel.
Yeah, he was allergic to grass, didn't like the grass. So now, okay, so let's go to the point of the ground. Ground is going to conduct those temperatures regarding the cold. How long can you stay on the ground? So there's a lot of elements here to begin looking at to say, how long could he have stayed outside without trying to get back inside? Even if he was in the neighborhood or someone else's house. Those points are not even there because no one's seen him. Where does it take you? Takes you back to the house. No hits around the house, puts him in the house. Didn't go out the window. No, he didn't go out the window because he would have stepped into the bushes, into the mulch, and we would have heard him. We would have heard him scream. Let's say what, Chris? We would have heard him scream. Oh, so you were home? See, that like I said, begin to hear these people talk and hear it start to come out. There's something funny going on. If something happened, let's come out to say, if it's not your fault, if you had no intention or like you said, malice, no malice, you're not in trouble. Oh, was he always in trouble? Did he constantly get into trouble?
Miss Tina, that is big facts. Sensory issue is common with autism. It is.
Yes.
It definitely is. That's one thing I do know. But I don't know, John.
Yeah, you got to consider all these different little things and then begin to, let's check that narrative again and put all those things next to the narrative. That's where the narrative starts to fall apart.
Comparing this case with, several cases that we have, researched, like, Summer Wells and the West Boys. During this time right now, when we're not hearing from law enforcement, and it's been a while, I know we just got an update, which really wasn't nothing new, but still they have no information. What do you think, or what do you feel could be taking long if we, as content creators who do thorough research on the facts that's been provided to us, what do you think that they are doing at this point? Do you think that what we are seeing right now, are they researching that or digging deeper into that like we have done?
You're talking about law enforcement or the parents?
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement's waiting for their phone to ring. That's what I feel.
For what?
To see if there's any new leads.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing is coming in, what are you going out for? If you had EquiSearch involved in that case twice, and check those grounds along with law enforcement, search and rescue from the Churchill Search and Rescue Squad, the neighborhood, and expanded well over 25, 30 miles, give or take, and still nothing. Where else would you go out for? Not unless something else is coming in. It certainly is not coming in from Don and Candace.
But when you have a case where, of course, the body or the missing person isn't found, and most likely they're leaning towards a recovery instead of, you know, him being found alive,
Mm-hmm.
you have to say, okay, without the body, what could we do if we had to take this to court? Let's go through the evidence and everything that they told us and everything that we have found out, just like we have. Things are not adding up.
Right.
So we go from them leaving Roadhouse and not sure if he made it home to the fact where, okay, he did make it home, but the dogs never found the scent outside of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how did he leave? I'm pretty sure they thinking the same thing we thinking. Okay, he had
Exactly.
to leave by car. So at this point in time, if this thing never progressed any further, you think they're just gonna let this ride like this?
No, well, you got Seth out there. He's still boots on the ground. We don't know. As long as he keeps his eyes and ears open and he keeps moving, he may come across something. A conversation may take place. Somebody may decide to make a phone call. Just like the phone call out of North Carolina about the sighting of Sebastian, even though it wasn't him. I mean, damn, it was almost a split in the image of him. That's for sure.
It was AI generated. These people
Yeah, I mean, people on the friggin' internet, you know, played with people's minds. He took off and went down there, checked it out, made sure for himself, and then found out that it wasn't. No information after that. He came back home, and now he's conducting his own searches with his own private eye in the best way possible. And to maybe talk to people that don't even know about his son being missing, as he said so in the news story. There are people out where I am right now that don't even know my son is missing. So that's what we're doing. We're keeping the word out. We're getting the word out, and we have to stay in motion to keep that word out. What else is he going to do? He wants to know what happened. And even if it's a recovery, there'll be some kind of finality, if you will, for him to say, at least I found my son. Now, if they can do an autopsy and kind of extract anything from the autopsy, whether there's blunt force trauma, whether there's anything that they could muster out of that autopsy, at least he could say, at least I found him. He was identified, DNA, and I found him. I would, as much as it's going to bother me, not knowing what happened, why I found him in that condition, it's always going to be on my mind.
Yeah, Marsha, I'm that's the first thought I had, that this was premeditated. I mean, that's without any evidence, because there is none. But like you said, Chris was done. He's tired. He's dealing with the situation with his last, I guess his last wife or whoever she was, with his daughter. We don't know the details on that case. But if it's true that he couldn't be at the home with his wife, his current wife, and Sebastian, that would be motive, man. Like,
there you go.
I'm tired of not being able to come home with my wife, and what, from what I'm hearing, he's a control freak, and maybe Katie is just that in love that she's willing to lose her son for another man, which is insane, bro.
Yeah, it is.
And somebody mentioned earlier she looks dead inside, and that might be why.
Yeah, well, obviously no sleep, hardly eating food on a regular basis. worrying about if that phone rings, who it is on the other side of the phone. If police are going to knock at the door, there's a lot going on mentally going on.
Now, CBX, why can't KP be charged with neglect? And only my response would be to that is the narrative she created. He left out of the house. Could you be charged with neglect if a 15-year-old kid, he does have autism? Could you be charged with neglect, John, if that was the case?
Only if evidence supports neglect, yeah. If a neighbor speaks out, if anybody that used to be around them, how she spoke to him, how she treated him, you can start to build circumstantial evidence around that through witnesses. Yeah. But if nothing comes about, no, it's hard.
But what about the previous cases that was spoke about, when they was in California? Like, those things add up. You remember about the West case?
Yeah.
That mother lost her kids because of weed, and then a bone was broken, and they said, you know what, we're going to take your kids.
Because there was enough circumstantial evidence, I guess, for CPS to go in and get the kids out. Somebody might have been smoking weed while they stepped up to the door. Who knows?
Circumstantial evidence.
Kid broke his femur.
And guess who failed the kids? The same people who took them kids from them.
Yep. And it's sad because they're still missing. Sebastian now is missing 5 months. 5 months. So the only thing that can possibly be done is keeping an eye on Chris and Katie and Faith and seeing how they move, like 54 Keys would say. Now we watch how they move. We'll listen out for conversations.
Absolutely. The movement will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Don't even listen to what's being said. Just watch the movement.
Right. Watch the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And go back to the school. See the talk about the school regarding this case. Go back to the grandparents. See what they have to say. Now, there's certain things coming out about the grandparent on Chris's side. I'm starting to look that way to see how their piece of the puzzle fits. When they interacted, what was their relationship, and what was Sebastian's relationship to them? How was the relationship with them? Was it an odd relationship? Was it a cordial relationship? Why haven't they mentioned anything? Why didn't they show up on the news? We're out here helping and searching and looking. There was a clip that was sent to me early this afternoon in regards to one of the grandparents following Blowhorn Betty around because she was in and around the neighborhood, and the grandfather, if I'm not mistaken, was the one following her, going where she was going, tailing her behind her car. And she got out of her car and started blowing him up. Why are you following me? Why aren't you out here looking for your grandchild? I don't understand you people. This, that, and the other thing. I saw it.
Yeah, that's a problem for me, is the fact that, and it should be for everyone, that Chris and Katie ain't even looking for this kid, man. That's a red flag for me.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag, because what did we say about the West parents, if that's what you can call them? They said, they told us not to search. Okay, that day, but what about all the days afterwards?
Right.
They did the same thing that Katie and Chris did. They left that home, and it's like they forgot about the kid.
Yeah, they went back to Bakersfield.
Yeah.
They went back to their mother and the grandparents, the boy's grandparents, his mother and father's house, until they started showing up there, yelling and chanting, "Where are the boys? Where are the boys? Where are the boys?"
D-Wash, I'm with you. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
for real, D. Walsh. Because they know exactly where he is. Exactly.
They're waiting to see, if the needle points north, that's where they go. If it points east, that's where they'll go. South, west, that's where they'll go. You're watching the movements, who they talk to, who they sit with, when they sit with.
It's just so hard to believe.
Yeah.
That there's no camera footage that caught her leaving the home at 6 a.m. and on her trip, there's no other camera footage that picked up her car to the point where they lost her. That's where you go at.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure they asked her exactly where did she search, and what she tell them has to match whatever surveillance finds. If it doesn't, there's another red flag, law enforcement. And that's what circumstance. You know what? That circumstantial evidence must be bothering me sometimes, because sometimes if the shoe fits, wear it.
Yeah. And that's the slow boat to China. That's stuff you got to dig out and put together, and then it's got to stick. And that's what they did in the West case, was to start to build a circumstantial evidence case, even without the boys' bodies ever being found. At any other time, you can't find children that go missing right away, 24, 48 hours, give or take. I say 24 hours, boom, they were found on the street. Boom, they were at a neighbor's house. Boom, they were at a friend's house. Boom, they went to a relative's house. And then you got to start another 24 and another 24, and then it turns in to days, and then week, and then weeks, month, and then another month, and another month, like that. Yeah. The probability starts to come down dramatically. And when there's no leads, nothing coming in that's sufficient enough for them to go and search a particular place, you go back to the statements that were made between Jennifer Soto and Stephen Stearns. Now, all their statements, not knowing where, little Madeline went, and all the same stuff, we want her back home, and we miss her, and she used to smile, and all the stuff, the statements start to become the only lead mechanism to where they're studying how the narrative flows and breaks and flows, and then breaks again, and then flows. And it takes a person to really sit down and study that and go over all of the statements made in order to come up with possible another conversation to have. And as they did that, obviously the story started changing. And then, Jennifer's mother was a part of that and told her side of the story. Mother-in-law, I think. Other people that surrounded the family. Until they found the stuff on his phone. And that's what nailed him. Yeah, wait a minute. Whoa, we got stuff on his phone. Look at this. that he had thought that he had erased through a factory reset on the phone. That's what caught his ass. Now, you didn't do a good job on that factory reset. We got you doing some things here, buddy. We need to have a conversation. That's what caught him.
Yeah.
You know, and it just takes that one extra thing to do that can flip a case. That one extra conversation, that one extra call, that one extra interview, that place you just had in the back of your mind that you didn't check. And then you meet someone who is afraid to say something. And they step into play. And then another one steps into play, and then another piece to take a look at. And they keep going back and knocking on the door, like a Columbo, you know? He would leave you alone and then turn around and say, oh, by the way. And that by the way is hook, line, and sinker. You forgot to tell me about this. Why didn't you mention that when we first spoke? I say, go get him, Columbo. Oh man, but that's really what it takes. So hopefully Hendersonville, police, well, along with TBI, keeps digging at it. It's still fresh. It is turning cold to a degree, because when it gets to a point, the case will go into a cold case. 6 months, give or take, no leads, nothing to look at, nobody to talk to, it begins to go cold. But as long as you have Seth out there digging around and talking to people, meeting people, going places, where they went, where they used to go, who knows? That's really all this case has got right now. Not unless guilt is going to flip one of the parents, Chris or Katie. Not unless something happens to Faith and she decides to pop up and say something based on what she's experienced. We don't know. But this was something that I wanted to cover here tonight with you. What happened when they left the restaurant? Why weren't the restaurant given any details? Why wasn't the bowling alley given any details in these interviews? A lot of details missing before the fact of Sebastian going missing. A lot of details that are missing in the premise of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And now we see more details of how the stepdad and biological mother are putting efforts out to search.
Hey, John, you mind if I say something real? I just want to address a comment
Go right ahead, brother.
Floyd, I just wanted to share this with you. I cover a case of Noah Bush, and law enforcement came up off the rip saying no foul play. But what I saw, I called bullshit off the rip. No foul play. If anybody's familiar with it, go look up the case. Now, guess what just happened? They arrested 2 kids, 11 and 10 years old. Pushed the boy in the water and held his head underwater and drowned him. But they said no foul play. So just because law enforcement say we have no evidence of foul play doesn't mean there is no foul play.
Absolutely.
We done seen that with several cases, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, that's to just keep everybody at bay, just not to even, tip their hand. That's how that be. I don't, when they say no foul play, that don't really mean
it doesn't.
Don't really mean nothing to me. Because we've seen cases where that wasn't the case, but that's how they came out. They're still gathering evidence.
Yeah, they
So
are.
they can't, definitively say the parents did something. And they're not gonna see it until they collect all the evidence that they need.
Right. They ain't gonna show their cards yet until they get everything they need.
No, I agree.
I feel like this is just one of them cases that they're still working on. So they're not, they can't tell us everything. Don't forget that.
Yeah, they gotta protect the integrity of the case.
Just in case, it make it to trial, we'll be there. So, but yeah, they can't tell us everything.
And that's the way it should be, because by them not saying anything, the Proudfoots don't get a chance to sleep very well. Because they never know, like I said, when that knock is going to be on that door, or that phone is going to ring a different way.
Yeah.
Or somebody's going to meet them at a shopping place where they go shopping because they were online looking at the story, following the story, and they got a question and they start responding kind of funny. Never know. God moves in mysterious ways.
Sure do.
Because when people are looking for the truth, it eventually comes up where you least expected.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I'm going to wrap things up for tonight's live. Miss 54 Keys, Mr. Boston Blake, thank you so much for joining me on panel tonight.
Much love to you, John.
Yeah, no, much love to you guys for, saying, hey, John's on a case. Let's pull a round table together and get around it and see what we can find too, add on. So, yeah, much love to you guys for, taking the time out. I know you just posted a video on your channel, 54, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta go check that out. Go check it out.
Yeah, about human remains found at the Goodwill.
They took the remains to the Goodwill, John.
Oh, man.
Like, what?
Not to the police, to the Goodwill.
To the Goodwill. Put them in a box.
They took remains to the Goodwill. Oh my goodness. As soon as I get off this live, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, me too.
You got to check out 54 Keys' video.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe.
Absolutely. And don't forget, please show the love of us covering just some of the things that we've been looking at here tonight on this live. Show some love. You want to keep me on, keep me going, let me know by hitting the likes, and definitely subscribe to the Community Crime Network channel. I know Boss puts out little clips and pieces from time to time from our past lives, specific details that he finds important to keep on top of the table. I like that. I love that. I appreciate you. Yeah. And
hilarious. You surprised me. I watched the video and got to the end like, no, he did.
Girl, stop.
I ain't think nobody heard me when I said it. I was like, girl, bye. When Katie was talking. I'm like, yeah, I don't trust her. I don't trust her. But yeah, boss, your video, that was funny. It was the truth, though. It's the truth.
Yeah. I appreciate you for having us, John, man. I'm gonna go ahead and drop down, man, and get back to work. Got a lot of work to do tonight, man.
I hear you, man. I hear you. We'll connect. We connect. We got some stuff to talk about anyway. So,
all right,
bro.
All right.
Okay, much love to you. All right, Miss 54. Much love to you too.
I appreciate you, John, and much love to the chat. We'll see y'all at the next one.
Oh, my brothers and sister. Know how to lock it down and get it locked up. Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Tina. Thank you, Miss D Love. Tar Heel for life. Y'all had a lot of good comments in there we were able to tap into. And hopefully we shed some light on some things. I know I came out the gate. I come out the gate hard and heavy, especially when the case is hard and heavy on my mind. And I got Sebastian at the house till something tells me a different way he left. I'm at the house because he didn't walk out that door. Till there's proof and evidence of him leaving that house in a different way, I'm at the house. I'm going to be working peripherals. Peripherals are different locations that he has been to in the past with both, with Seth, because they did things together. They did things together. They went places together. They ate out together, learning about Seth. What did Sebastian enjoy doing with his biological father? Where did they go? What did they enjoy doing together? How did they spend their time? There are things there to know and learn about Sebastian through Seth's eyes and his experience with his son. That's where the other details are. Those are the details or additional peripherals I'm going to be looking into, and I'll bring it back to you. We just had to go back to the restaurant tonight. We had to go back to the bowling alley. We had to go back to BJ's. I wasn't too clear on those things because they were never discussed. Not in full detail enough for us to say, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, if anybody knows or has already sent me, because I see my email box is getting filled up over here again. I got what? 23 emails. Oh God. You know about that divorce decree regarding Seth and Katie? Send it to me. Let me know what content creator it is. Tell that content creator to get a hold of me, get in contact with me, maybe email it to me. I appreciate that so that I can continue looking that up because there's character there too. And I'm sure that Seth had his days as well. You know, when things were out of harmony, you know, a tough balancing day, you know, to deal with. Those things are going to be a part of this too. And as for Sebastian, yeah, we're going to keep his name out there. Anyone with any information knows to call 1-800-TBI-FIND or the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. Detective B. Carter is handling the case. 615-451-3838. If you have seen 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, this is important because the more time that escapes us in terms of not keeping him out here, keeping awareness of him out here, then chances are this turns into a cold case, just as the Summer Wells case has turned cold. Not over. It's just there, still to be dealt with. Still to be dealt with. And so we're going to continue to do our best to make a contribution to keep the story in front of us. There's been so many interesting things the story has given us so far. Marcia, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to keep the heat on. And I know the content creators that I had, collabed with, they're going to be keeping the heat on too. It could be another conversation. It could be another audio. It could be a picture. It could be anything that can change the dynamics of this case. And once we have it and we're able to study it and begin to see if the piece fits within the body of the case, or if it's just a side piece conversation that somebody wants to say, well, we'll know. We'll definitely know. We'll know. But I want to thank my moderators, Ms. Justice, Ms. Carol Smith. Thank you so much, ladies, for holding John Q's channel down as you always do. You know, without my moderators, like I said, I don't have a flood of moderators in my chat. No, these are loyal warriors that know the casework that I do, and you know, won't put up with any nonsense if it shows up in the chat. But my chat, you know, is a harmonious chat, and I think I'm very blessed to have each and every single one of you. We went over 530, 540 people here tonight, you know, knowing that I was coming back with something. And I will be back with you soon to continue. So, yeah. Ooh, a full house tonight, I'm telling you. Much love to Boss Blake and 54 Keys, as well as Mr. and Mrs. Cher from Voices Behind the Wall, joining us here this evening on tonight's live. We're looking at some things. Like I said, my number one is Katie. My number one is Katie. I'm going to continue to study her while I begin building more and more peripherals around her character. You know, this was done in the course of moments. It just didn't happen out of thin air. But all it takes is a moment. One moment for temperatures to change. One moment for a different thought to enter the mind. And one moment for an action to happen. Premeditatively, unconsciously, reactionary, whatever you want to call it, something happened to Sebastian and something happened in the house. That's key. There may be no evidence of foul play in the house, but there is something there. His presence is still there in the house until we can physically resolve that issue. Oh, so that's how he got out. That's the issue. How'd he get out? Mama Bear, much love to you. Mama Bear has been a beam in my email, sending me stuff. And I'm still going through that, sorting through that information. She sent me pictures. She sent me posts. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. And thank you all for supporting my channel. I could not have done any of this without you, you know, and keep me strong. Let folks know who John Q is. Help me to get to the next milestone, if you will. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. You know, it will help grow the channel, get me out into the algorithm by putting out the numbers. YouTube has a funny way of playing with numbers and stats, statistics, views, and all this other nonsense. So, but, you know, I'm in no hurry. I am in no hurry. I'm telling you. Samantha, I love you. Thank you. Eyes of Brown. Is it Blondie? Bogey Green Street. Thank you all so much. Until next time. Hey, you know, 24, 48 hours, 72 at best. You'll see me again. You'll see me again. I jump back on here. Almost 500. Yeah, almost 500 tonight. Well, I mean, I did go a little over 500. We had Justin's birthday tomorrow. Miss Justice wanted me to sing to Justin happy birthday. She thought it would have been cool. I said, okay. I said, well, let me invite him. Let me send him an invite at least. You know, I know she over there chuckling. So yeah, everybody wish Justin a happy birthday. CB, great chat, John. This will be solved if we protest outside Sumner County Sheriff's Office. Yeah. Yes, knock on their doors. Hey, you guys still on the case? What's up? What's the update? It's another area where another door can be open. Keep them on their toes. Call the sheriff's office. Email the sheriff's office. Go down there if your boots on the ground to the sheriff's office. Keep shaking the door. No, any new leads? Anything? When's the next search? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Stay under the skin of the people that has got skin in the game. They work for you. They work for us. Law enforcement works for us, not the other way around. We keep it simple. So I send out, prayers to the Trump family. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I just, when you see incidences like this or any other incident out there in the world, we got to say a prayer. Got to send prayers out, man. This is getting too wild with people just losing their mind, thinking that they can do things and get away with it. No consequence. No. Wrong. There's always that consequence. It's the best one that we know exists. It's called the truth. It's not a negative consequence. It's a positive one. Because once you get there, nobody can take it from you. Once you get there, once you get it, no one can take it from you. It becomes a part of you, like everything else. Much love to you and your family. Be well and stay blessed with Godspeed. Till next time. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you next time.